Real love. Lena was halfway through alphabetizing her bookshelf when her phone pinged. She shouldn't have checked. Organization was her refuge, but curiosity was a sly thing. One glance at the wedding group chat and the air left her lungs. Tyler Henderson. RSVP. Yes. Her ex. The one who dumped her in the produce aisle between the oranges and avocados. The one her entire family still adored. The one she'd spent the last year proving she was so over. Thank you very much. She stared at the message until her vision blurred, the alphabet on her shelves forgotten. Which was how she ended up typing, looking for an actor for a weekend gig. Must be charming, photogenic, and able to fake romantic chemistry. Compensation, free food, open bar, and $200 into an online job board at 2 a.m. The next morning, Theo Rivers walked into her life. He was late, unapologetically so, striding into the cafe with messy brown hair and a grin that could probably convince people to commit mild crimes. He wore a faded denim jacket and carried himself like the air itself enjoyed being near him. "You're Lena?" he asked, sliding into the seat across from her without waiting for permission. "And you're Theo?" She tried not to sound skeptical, but it slipped out anyway. "In the flesh. I've played boyfriends before. Once even a husband, but that ended in a pie fight, so let's hope your family's less dramatic." She raised a brow. "You're an actual actor?" "Off-Broadway mostly, and commercials. I've sold more car insurance than I care to admit." There was a beat of silence, broken only by the hiss of the espresso machine. "You understand this is just for show," Lena said carefully. "My cousin's wedding. My ex will be there. You'll be my +1. A prop." "Got it. No lines crossed. Just a believable couple madly in love," Theo said, leaning back with infuriating ease. "I can do that." The wedding weekend bloomed warm and golden, the August air thick with the smell of salt from the nearby shore. Theo was convincing. Almost too convincing. He held her hand like it was second nature, resting his thumb against her knuckles in a way that sent her heart on strange, fluttery detours. He whispered ridiculous inside jokes in her ear during the rehearsal dinner until she was laughing so hard her aunt shot her a "what's gotten into you" look. And when Tyler arrived, polished, smug, the same cologne Lena remembered from all the wrong places, Theo's arms slid around her waist like it belonged there. "Babe," Theo murmured, smiling down at her. "Want me to get you another drink?" Babe. She nearly forgot how to breathe. The rehearsal dinner toast was the first crack in her composure. The maid of honor had made everyone share how they met stories for the couple. When it came to them, Theo stood without hesitation. "I met Lena in a bookstore," he began, voice warm and steady. "She was in the poetry aisle reading Neruda, and I thought, God, if I don't talk to her, I'll regret it forever." Lena's heart thudded hard against her ribs. He was making it up, obviously, but the picture he painted felt real. She looked up, smiled at me like she already knew my name, and then told me I was standing in front of the book she needed. And I've been moving out of her way ever since. Laughter and awes rippled through the room. Lena stared at him, heat curling in her stomach. Later, under the dim glow of fairy lights, she whispered, "You didn't have to make it sound so romantic." Theo's smile was crooked, his eyes unreadable. "That's the job, Lena." The wedding day unfolded in a blur of champagne and flower petals. During the slow songs, Theo danced with her, their movements syncing without effort. His hand rested against the small of her back, a steady anchor in the noise. "You're a good dancer," she murmured, trying to keep her voice light. "You're easy to follow," he replied, eyes locked on hers. She looked away too quickly, afraid of what she'd see if she kept looking. By the time dessert arrived, she'd convinced herself she was imagining everything. The way his gaze lingered, the subtle press of his hand against hers. Until the bouquet toss. She hadn't intended to catch it, but it landed in her arms like fate had aimed. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Theo leaned in, lips brushing her ear. "Guess that means we're next," he said softly. Her laugh came out breathless. "You're still acting." "Am I?" The spell cracked only after the last dance, when they walked back to the inn through the quiet streets. "You were perfect," Lena said finally. "Thank you. I'll transfer the rest of your payment tomorrow." Theo's steps slowed. "Right. Payment." She winced. "That's how this works." He stopped, hands in his pockets. "What if I don't want it to be work anymore?" Her heart tripped. "Theo, I like you, Lena. I liked you before the fake hand-holding and the inside jokes. I liked you when you were nervously explaining your color-coded weekend itinerary." He grinned faintly. "I wasn't acting." The air between them thickened, heavy with unspoken things. "I hired you to keep my life neat," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And now?" "And now?" She looked up at him, the streetlight catching in his eyes. "Now it's messy." "Messy's not always bad," he murmured. Back at her room, they stood in the doorway, the moment stretching thin and delicate. "Good night, Lena," Theo said, but his gaze lingered like a promise. "Good night, Theo." She closed the door softly, leaning against it. Her perfectly controlled world had unraveled over the course of a weekend, thread by golden thread. And for the first time in years, she wasn't sure she wanted to stitch it back together. A month later, their third date was the kind Lena didn't think counted as a date until halfway through it. They'd spent the afternoon wandering through a small-town art fair, sharing fried dough, and listening to a street violinist play songs Lena half recognized. Now they sat on a park bench by the river, the last of the summer light melting into gold. Lena traced the rim of her paper coffee cup, her heart doing that reckless thing it had started doing whenever Theo smiled at her. She glanced sideways, hesitating. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," he said, stretching his arm along the back of the bench, not quite touching her. She took a breath. "You could date anyone. Models, socialites, the kind of women who look like they just stepped out of a magazine." She hesitated, the words heavier than she'd meant. "So why me?" Theo was quiet for a moment, watching the sunlight skip over the water. Then he turned to her, expression steady. "I've met those women," he said softly. "The kind who walk into a room and everyone stares. And yeah, they're beautiful. At first." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "But after a while, you realize beauty fades fast if there's nothing beneath it. You see the cracks, the ego, the way they treat people when no one's watching." Lena's throat tightened. He looked at her then, his gaze warm and unwavering. "With you, it's different. You notice things. You listen. You laugh like it surprises you every time. You're curious about the world, and you make it feel better just by being in it. That doesn't fade." Her cheeks burned, and she tried to look away, but Theo's hand found hers, fingers lacing easily. "And for the record," he added, his grin tilting just enough to make her heart trip, "you are beautiful, Lena. More than you seem to realize. You're gonna be stuck with me until you believe you are." "Well then, I guess I will never believe I am. Ever." Theo laughed, the sound of it making her heart do that somersault thing again.